The views and opinions expressed on My Story Living with Lupus podcast represents each person's individual experience. By listening to this podcast or reading our blog, you agree not to use this podcast or blog as medical advice to treat any medical condition in either yourself or others. As always, consult your own physician for any medical issues that you may be having. My Story Living with Lupus podcast is officially trademarked, all rights reserved. Thank you for joining me for another episode of My Story Living with Lupus podcast. I'm your host, Susan Hendricks, and I'm so glad that you could join me this Saturday night. That's right. It's March 13th, 2021. Yes, I know you usually hear me on Fridays. But guess what? You'll learn a little bit later about what's going on. Now, allow me to ask you two questions. Now, you've heard about my experience being on Prednisone. But do you think that Prednisone can be linked to poor emotional health? Also, do you realize that more than 200,000 Americans have lupus? Well, you'll get the 411 and the answers to my questions shortly. Now you know the drill. All the way from the United States to Central Luzon and Metro Manila, Philippines. That's right, get ready to grab your cup of coffee, your cup of tea, and to my listeners late at night, you know I appreciate you. So go ahead, grab your favorite glass of wine and join the conversation right here on My Story Living with Lupus podcast. Ophthalmology Associates, PC, Drs. Berman and Dr. Zuckerbrod, treating diseases of the eye and eye surgery. You can reach them at 313-341-3450. Well, once again, I thank you for joining me. By the time you listen to this, it's 10:29 p.m. in Detroit, Michigan. And it may be early evening where you are. It may be Sunday where you are. Just know that I appreciate you for tuning in each and every week and listening. Now, did you realize just over 200,000 Americans have the autoimmune disorder lupus, and minority women are at highest risk according to a new study? That's right. Now, excuse me. The study potentially redefines systemic lupus erythematosus as a rare disease in the United States and lays the groundwork for where we need to focus our efforts to reduce the burden of this disease on Americans. In lupus, especially systemic lupus erythematosus, the immune system mistakenly attacks its own healthy tissues, especially joints and skin. The condition can be fatal and often causes debilitating bouts of fatigue and pain that prevent nearly half of adult patients from working. Now, previous estimates of lupus were larger but unverified. Researchers analyzed records for 5,417 adults and children diagnosed with lupus since 2002 at all U.S. state registries for the disease, as well as the Indian Native Health Services. They calculated the number of people with lupus for every gender and ethnic group and applied those numbers to 2018 census population data. Now, they concluded that among every 100,000 people nationwide, 72.8 had lupus, for a total of 204,295 out of a population of 330 million. The study found that 9 times more women than men have lupus, and rates were highest among Native American, Alaskan Native women at 270.6 per 100,000. Now, with these figures, in my mind, I'm thinking if you're going to take a total number of adults and children, who are you excluding? And with this type of illness, you can't exclude any gender. And when I say gender, I'm talking about those who are transitioning into a woman. And I don't mean to offend anyone, but there has been research that has shown that those who transition into women who take female hormones are at a risk also of lupus. Now, Black women had the second highest rate, 230.9 per 100,000, followed by Hispanic women at 120.7 per 100,000. When we return, we'll discuss any similar racial disparities. So stay with me. If you would like to appear on an episode of My Story Living with Lupus, you can contact us at mystorylivingwithlupus@gmail.com. Also visit us on our Instagram page and also our website, My Story Living with Lupus. All right, and we're back. Now, similar racial disparities were seen among men with lupus, with American Indians, Alaskan Natives, having the highest number, 53.8 per 100,000, followed by Black men at 26.7 per 100,000. Being reclassified as a rare disease could significantly change efforts to study and treat lupus, reducing the number of study participants needed to test new treatments. It could also influence and design of clinical trials required before seeking regulatory approval for treatments, according to the research. The findings could also help identify which neighborhoods or population groups need extra resources, such as specialty rheumatology clinics to combat lupus. Now, the study I'm talking about was published online January the 21st in the journal Arthritis and Rheumatology. You know, I find it difficult from people that I hear from a lot of times that they cannot find a rheumatologist in their area where they live at. So it would be advantageous to have specialty rheumatology clinics located in urban areas, because people who live in urban areas have the hardest time receiving quality care and are the ones who are seeking qualified physicians who understand how they feel, who will take the time to listen to what they are saying that is going on with their body, who will take the time to listen to what they are saying about the symptoms they are having. Physicians who will take the time to educate patients on his or her illness and not leave the patients wondering what is going on and what is the doctor speaking about. Now, when we return, is prednisone linked to poor emotional health? You'll find out shortly, so stay with me. The Charlie E. and Minnie P. Hendricks Foundation for Chronic Illness Awareness, giving hope and empowering those who suffer with chronic illness. See one, reach one, educate one to empower the masses. You can contact the foundation at 313-303-9217 or visit their website at https://cemphfoundation.com. This is a 501c3 organization. No one should live in lack. All contributions are tax deductible. Now, thank you for joining me once again. Now, the reason why you're hearing me on Saturday, March the 13th, is because my lupus has been a little bit out of control. And when I say out of control, it decided to attack my internal organs again. Now, on March the 11th, I had to go to the hospital for procedure number 4. And it was unsuccessful. And the specialist said now that we would have to take more aggressive treatment. So I'm waiting for a call, I should say, to see when procedure number 5 is scheduled for. The medication that they had me up under the anesthesia, it was fentanyl and propofol. Usually I have to sleep that all off. My body does not handle anesthesia that well. Usually, I can sleep for a whole day and won't wake up until the next day. But I had something else in store that I needed to do. And what that something else was, on March 14th, 2021. You guys know that I formed a foundation, the Charlie E. and Minnie P. Hendricks Foundation for Chronic Illness Awareness. We will be once again feeding the homeless. This is our second annual feeding those in need. And we will be doing it again in June and in November. So, right now I'm on double duty. I'm cooking and I'm doing my podcast. We will be passing out hot home-cooked meals along with clothing and personal care items to those who we have not forgotten about, because they are someone's son, daughter, father, mother, brother, sister, uncle, aunt, grandfather, niece, nephew, and so on. This is our way of giving back to the community. This is our way of showing you are not forgotten about. And I would like to ask you guys to do something for me. Now, we know that the majority of Americans are expected to receive a stimulus check. All I'm asking each and every one of you who hears my voice, if you live in the United States and you are expecting a stimulus check, to take $5 of that money and feed one homeless person in your community. That's all I'm asking. And we see that everyone on social media does different types of challenges. Let this be a challenge of giving back the way we are taught as children, and as we grow up through our faith, we are taught to care for those who are less fortunate. Now, if you would do that for me, it would be greatly appreciated. And if you could also tag me on your social media and use the hashtag stimulus challenge I gave back. That's hashtag stimulus challenge I gave back. All I'm asking you guys for is to take $5 and feed one homeless person within your community. And if some of you are saying, well, they're homeless by choice, we can't say that because we have not walked in their shoes. Now, here in Detroit, Michigan, we know that since the closing, the governor, I think it was England, closed the mental hospitals. The homeless, the mental patients are living on the street. So, regardless if you may get a check or not, help someone by spending $5 on a meal and feeding one homeless person in your community. I don't know if I will receive a stimulus check. If I do, I plan to spend more in feeding those who are living on the street besides what I plan to do on Sunday, March the 15th. And if I don't get a check, regardless, either way, I'm going to do my part throughout the week to feed the homeless. And I'm asking you to do the same, because this pandemic has shown everyone how we are all just one paycheck away ourselves from being homeless, being hungry. Be thankful for what you have, because someone is praying that they had what you have right now. So do me that favor. And you can tag me in my social media on IG. You can go to I Am Lupus or My Story Living with Lupus. Facebook is Susan Hendricks. You can even do it on Twitter also. You can tweet it and tag me in the tweet at story_lupus. Now, talking about prednisone, I've shared my experience when the doctors first placed me on prednisone, how I reacted to it. But do you believe that prednisone can be linked to poor emotional health in people with low lupus disease activity? Let's find out what research says, because there exists new research from Japan which finds that even people with low lupus disease activity who are treated with prednisone, even at low doses, suffer from poor emotional health, and emotional health worsen at higher daily doses of the medication. The study assessed the emotional health of 192 people with low lupus disease activity and a history of taking 7.5 milligrams or less of prednisone or equivalent per day. Emotional health has determined, based on participants' responses to survey questions asking about anxiety, depression, and different worries about the future. Now, this study, I'm looking at the study number of 192 people. To me, that is a low number to come up with a definitive answer for this, but to each its own. The results showed a significant association between the glucocorticoid dose and poor emotional health. For those taking no prednisone, emotional health scores were high, with a median score of 90 on a 100-point scale, indicating good overall emotional well-being. Even a modest increase in prednisone between 0 and 2.5 milligrams per day resulted in lower scores. The lowest emotional health scores were found in the group taking 5 to 7.5 milligrams daily. Previous studies have found medium to high glucocorticoid corticosteroid doses are associated with poor emotional health outcomes. The latest data suggests that lower the glucocorticoid dose, the better for a person's emotional health. As always, consult with your doctor before making any changes to your medication. Well, I thank you for joining me for another episode of My Story Living with Lupus podcast. I'm going to have to go because it's now 11:12 p.m. and I have to finish. I still have a lot more to do before the sun comes up tomorrow. I plan on taking, after I get through tomorrow, I plan on taking Monday off and just resting because I know I'm going to need it. Because don't tell anybody. The doctor told me after my procedure that I needed to rest. And I said to myself, and it came out my mouth, I said, yeah, right. And the doctor said, what do you mean, Susan? And I said, well, I have something I have to do on Sunday. And the doctor laughed and said, well, take it easy, but make sure on Monday, you rest all day. So that's what I'm going to do. But I want to leave you with this. You know, life may not be going well for you now, but you have to press forward. Anything in life is possible, but you have to hold on to hope. Don't allow your yesterday take up too much of your today. And remember this, sometimes God closes doors because it is time to move forward. And He knows you will not move unless your circumstances force you to. And you know you don't have to have it all figured out to move forward. I'm your host, Susan Hendricks. Thank you for joining me for another episode of My Story Living with Lupus podcast. Don't forget about the challenge. Allow God to place it on your heart and give with a cheerful heart to one homeless person within your community. I wish you a most peaceful, positive, and oh so blessed week. I'll see you guys next Friday for another episode. God bless you all.